we are here. So guys, thank you so much for those of you guys who are tuning in and you're catching this on the replay. Let me know if you're here. We are here with Natasha Takahashi, the bot master, and I'm excited to get into all things bots today. And she's someone who, if you guys have followed me a little bit, similarly has been helping people not only to build bots, but then also to go out there and build an agency around it. She has 30 of her own clients that she services, and then she also has a program where she trains and teaches people how to do this stuff as well. So Natasha, thank you for spending some time with us today, and welcome to.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Marketing
Super
Summit.
excited. Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, one thing that I always start these kind of convos off with is like the story, right? Because everybody, we've had some developers on, we've had some marketers on, but it seems like everybody has their own interesting story in how they actually got here. So what led you to being, having some of even people who follow me, they call you I think it was the bot goddess, I think is what I saw.
Yeah, I think
what led you get to this point, and how did you get here and talking about bots and doing all things bots?
Yeah. So pretty much, if I start the story back in 2016, kind of when Messenger bots launched, at that time, I was trying to figure out what business I wanted to start. And so I was leaning more towards a marketing agency just because I knew a lot of people who were, digital nomads, kind of like they travel and work online. I'm sure a lot of people in this space also are familiar with that term. And so I was trying to figure out how can I do that? Because I had read the 4-Hour Workweek like a couple years before, and I was like, okay, that's kind of what I want to do. And obviously got sparked, like so many people, to kind of be able to automate my business and have time freedom, location freedom, all of that stuff. So I was trying to figure out what can I do. Seemed like, honestly, everyone online was like, do a Facebook ads agency or do social media management agency. And I had done both of those things for companies before, for startups I was working with, for Startup Grind, which is a big entrepreneur community, and also kind of like freelancing as well for my own clients. So I was like, okay, those are actually viable options. Like I know that I can do that, but was just trying to figure out which one to do with my co-founder, Kyle. And then bots were announced on F8. I watched F8 because I was like, okay, if I'm going to do Facebook ads, like got to kind of be up to date with everything. And then they announced them, and I had kind of heard about chatbots. Like I know people always talk about like, oh, AIM was kind of the first time people saw like bots in a social setting, and I don't think Yahoo Messenger had any, but I used Yahoo Messenger growing up all the time in AIM. So I was really familiar with just like messaging platforms. So I was wowed when I saw everything that they'd been doing. Like one of the ones I always remember is 1-800-Flowers and how they were going through that one on the presentation. And so I started looking into it more. I started playing around with them, on Messenger, and realized that I should just focus my agency on this. But I did know it was going to be really difficult. Like at the beginning of any space, it's kind of like trying to sell Instagram ads right when Instagram comes out, and no one knows what the hell Instagram is. So it's kind of the same thing with bots. And I decided to go into it anyways, though, and was doing Facebook ads and a couple other social media stuff for people when we first started. But the first couple of months were pretty rough for us, trying to just figure out like how the heck we could sell this and tell people the power of this. I think tons of people experience this issue, and I'm sure you have too. When you first jump into it, you're like, how the hell do I explain the value of this to someone? And so once we kind of got over that hurdle and pitched, hundreds of times to people, small businesses as well as large corporate and enterprise people, we ended up finding a couple partners who could actually build bots for. And so that's how we ended up automating a lot of our sales, was doing white label partnerships, as well as some strategic ones where our branding was still on the bot. And so that was kind of what led us, having a hard time talking, led us to scaling so quickly in a short amount of time. So within like the third or fourth month, we now had 30 repeating clients every month. And so now we've kind of kept it at that cap still as we've started to grow School of Bots, which I'll get into in a sec. But pretty much we did that, and then now we build about 10 new bots every month. So we keep the numbers pretty consistent. But overall, that's kind of how we got started, and just continue to do that from like late 2016 up until today. So it wasn't that exciting of a start, but nonetheless, it was a means for us to be able to start our own business and automate everything, have time freedom, and be able to travel as well and meet people and speak. And I'm trying to do a lot of bot dinners everywhere that I go. So it's been really cool to be able to travel and see this space in every country that I've gone to so far. So that's what my journey kind of looked like going into it. And then in November, we ended up partnering with Chatfuel to kind of create this brand called School of Bots, which has now become this educational brand for people to go and just get resources, whether they're just starting out with bots or they're already down the line, have had their agency for months, or have already been selling other services and just want to add bots onto it. So those are the two main things that I've been working on and how I've tried to get as involved as possible in the space, just because I think it's so awesome. And kind of like how we were talking about earlier, it's so new that everyone in the space is new as well. And so it's a really great learning opportunity and collaboration time for the industry because everyone is just brand new to this. There's nothing that's really been done in the space yet. So overall, that is kind of everything. To stop rambling.
Yeah, there's a couple things there. What's interesting is one of the first books that I read in my kind of journey towards digital marketing was the 4 Hour Work Week. And I wonder how much Tim Ferriss kind of, I don't know if he anticipated that was where it would go, but I think once people started waking up, they realized that was where it was.
Yeah.
We'll save that for another talk. What I want to talk about is this journey that you guys went on in pitching and understanding how to pitch and how to market these bots, because you talked about that being kind of a frustrating process at first. And I know for me, it was super frustrating, like having this magical pill, this magic bean, and this genie in a bottle, if you will, and people just not understanding and not getting it. And so for you guys, what did you guys do, or what was that experience like? Was there even like a moment where you realized that you needed to change the way that you were marketing bots that ended up, resulting?
Yeah, there definitely was. So there were a couple things that we were doing wrong from the beginning, but we didn't really realize it. So the first number one problem or like the mistake that we made would be to position it as a customer service tool. And so what we would do in our cold emails, as well as when we were explaining it to people, the first thing we would say would be, hey, this is a bot and it can help automate your customer service. It can do this, it can do that. Like we'd name a bunch of other stuff and functionalities and use cases, but the first thing we'd always say was customer support. And that really threw people off and made it not as appealing for them because they were like, I already have Zendesk, I already have Intercom, we already have our whole email customer support system set up, so I have no use for this. And back then also you couldn't integrate on a website. So they were like, what's the point of a customer support desk that doesn't live on your website? And so that threw off a lot of people and lost us a lot of leads just because we weren't explaining it correctly. So that was the first kind of shift we had to make, was position it in a more personalized way that made sense to that industry. So for example, if we were in beauty, okay, this can increase your engagement and number of influencer collaborations or something, right? It just kind of depended what they were looking for. So we changed completely in terms of positioning and would always highlight the top use case that we thought they could benefit from the most at the beginning, instead of always saying, hey, this is good for customer support. So that was the first thing. And then the second biggest shift was not calling it a bot. So I think I've actually seen your posts and things all the time about this, right? Like, don't call it a freaking bot, because people don't know what that is and they don't care what it is. They just want to know, what does that mean for their business? So kind of two shifts actually that happened there was, okay, don't say it's a bot, explain what it can do. So add more revenue or bring higher engagement. But then the second piece of that was think about who you're talking to and put it in context for them. So if you're talking to a marketing manager, okay, then talk about marketing statistics and what they care about. If you're talking to a customer support person, okay, talk about, this number of customer support inquiries can now be automated. If you're talking to a financial person, okay, it's going to bring in this much more revenue. These are the retention rates, blah, blah, blah. So just talking about the stats that made sense and that the person we were talking to actually cared about was kind of that second part of positioning. So I'd say those were the top two lessons that we for sure learned as we went along and pitched to hundreds of people over cold email, cold calling, trying to set up meetings in person, virtual kind of conferences and pitches like on a Zoom, going to conferences. All of those two lessons definitely applied for every single situation that we were in.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so when you think about bots, like what are some favorite use cases that you find really are compelling? I'm curious for you guys. We have a few people who are in the kind of affiliate marketing space, internet marketing
Yeah.
space. But in terms of like businesses, what are some of your, do you have like a favorite use case, or do you have a favorite thing, or is there like, I don't know, I always try and share stories on these interviews. Like, was there a particular way that you explained a bot that resonated with a certain business owner? Because I think that that's what you need to talk, like that's what people need to talk about
Right.
more, not like quick replies and buttons.
Yeah. Yeah, you can show your stuff in the gallery. Yeah. No, totally agreed with that. Yeah, I think one of the best, or like, yeah, I guess the best memories for me, because so Kyle does a lot of our sales stuff and prospecting, but at the beginning we were both kind of reaching out to our own networks and both kind of sharing that sales process and stuff. And so one of the best conversations I think that I had was talking to one of the bigger beauty brands in the space, and they were partnered with an influencer, and so he had built this beauty brand, and so that was great. And when I first started talking to them, I actually did outline it as a messenger bot, could help automate customer support, and blah blah. I made all those mistakes, but luckily this marketing manager I was talking to had actually already found out about bots. She had been like on ManyChat and some of the other ones, and she had looked at them, so she actually knew what it was and what I was talking about. So luckily that didn't throw her off. And then what ended up happening was I explained all that to her, and I was kind of talking about how it would all work. And we were in talks for like months. I mean, because they're not super global, but they're still like a big enough brand where there's like a ton of hierarchy and red tape and everything. And so as we went on, I actually was able to every time. So it's really funny because I had to pitch bots to their company like 4 or 5 times, which has never ever happened since then. And I've never ever heard of this happening really, but I guess it kind of does in like a smaller scale, where pretty much pitched it to her and then found out she had a VP of marketing, right? So then we go to the VP of marketing, have a meeting with her. This would have been a lot easier if everyone could hop on one call, but of course they couldn't. And so pitched the VP of marketing and then found out, okay, there's another global VP of marketing. Okay, now we have to go pitch her. And pretty much this happened like 4 or 5 times up until we get to, the CMO. And each time I got so much better at pitching it and like explaining what use cases they could use and like how it would work. And so obviously a lot of people aren't going to get the chance to pitch to a company that many times and kind of have like a rerun of making it the best pitch possible. But it was such an interesting experience for me because I think that really taught me that if you can just plan ahead of time and kind of almost put all of those lessons in one, where you're like, you look at all our stuff ahead of time, you're like, okay, how can this best support them? How many messages do you think that they're getting on Facebook? What does their engagement look like on everything? If you can gauge all of that and then put together a really cool demo for them and walk them through that, then that really solves that kind of learning curve in terms of pitching hundreds of times. If you can put together something like that and just be super prepared, which I didn't do at the beginning, but by the end I had like really learned, okay, this is exactly how I need to pitch it to them, because I could kind of tell, reactions during the whole presentation of each of the 4 or 5 people that I pitched. And so that was like the biggest lesson I learned. And it was just a ridiculous process for sure that we did end up closing them. But nonetheless, just like an insane amount of time spent, which was really a helpful experience for sure, because they were a big company. And so it was kind of like a lesson for showing people on a smaller scale what bots are, and then all the way to the top, being able to explain that in a concise and like appealing way to the top CMO at a company. So it was kind of like that whole journey that we went on that usually people take a really long time to go through different companies, but luckily it was kind of fast tracked for us because it was all just one company but multiple times.
It's so many things in there I want to dig into.
Yeah.
And, guys, I got to make an engagement plug here, because if you're enjoying this stuff, you're getting any value, I'm going to ask that you take your thumbs, or if you're old school like me and you still have a mouse, click the like button, and let's just let the old Zucks, Uncle Zucks, know that this is a interview worth watching. And guys, if you guys have any questions, throw those down there as well, and we'll get into them. Natasha, I'm curious for you, both selfishly as well as I'm sure the audience is, when you're pitching bots, what do you think are some of what went into that pitch? Maybe you can talk, maybe you can talk about that specific one, with that beauty line, or maybe you want to talk more in a general sense. But what are some of the key things that these agency owners need to be hitting on with the business prospects, with their potential clients, in order for them to feel comfortable utilizing this new marketing system?
Totally. So I think to preface that, right now, in my opinion, is a sweet spot to get into selling bots, because back when I started, no one knew what bots were in terms of like business owners and people that you're actually going to be pitching this to. But now I think we've gotten to the point where there's so much buzz around them that most marketing managers and departments and stuff at least have heard about them, or like have an idea of what conversational marketing is. So they can at least understand the value of it. And so now is really a sweet spot, because a lot of those companies don't have bots yet. So there's still so much opportunity left out there for people to go close those clients. So in terms of general kind of sales process, I guess, or like sales pitch process for us would be, first of all, before the meeting, it kind of depends what type of meeting it is as well. If it's in person or if it's over like a virtual conference like this, it's kind of going to depend. But usually what it looks like is, before we hop on that pitch, we build them like a really short demo of what their bot could look like. So usually we just build this on Chatfield. It's super easy to do that and hook it up to a dummy Facebook page. Although right now, obviously, you can't do that. So if you go on botsociety.io or botmock.com, you guys can use those tools. They're purely just demos, so you don't have to link up a Facebook page to them. And you can actually even grab the video or download the video of what the whole interaction looks like between the bot and the user. So doing any sort of demo like that, pretty much, and putting together either a welcome message and then showing like one of the pathways. So for example, for an e-commerce or something, you could show like a user shopping through the bot and then going all the way through to getting their receipt, to getting, delivery notifications and all of that, some sort of pathway use case to show them inside of there. And then if we, depending on how long the presentation is going to be, we may add one more thing where we show them like an actual opt-in. So on a landing page or on like a physical flyer where there's a messenger code or something like that, some sort of use case that they're most likely going to use. If they go to a lot of events and we know that and they post about that all the time, then okay, messenger code, obviously would be valuable for them. So whatever is going to be the best opt-in for them, we show them that as well on a demo, either a demo video or actually during the presentation. Although we usually do the video, and I just recommend that you do a video because you never know what the Wi-Fi is going to be like if you're in person, or, so many things can come up where the bot doesn't respond or something, and then you're kind of screwed during the demo. So I would recommend doing a video, but if you really want to do it live, you can do that as well. And so that's the first thing we do even before getting there. And then once we get there, what we do before, like I said, we used to say, this is a bot and this is what it can do, right? Well, now we really preface it more as, hey, this is Facebook Messenger. And the reason that we market on this channel and do sales and operations, automation and all of that is because it's the #1 messaging platform in the world, and then give them a couple stats on Messenger itself. So not talking about bots, but just purely the platform. And then we go into, this is how your business could improve everything you guys are already doing. That's a really key thing, because something that we screwed up too that I didn't mention earlier is that, we'd go up to businesses at conferences and be like, hey, like what you're doing sucks right now. People don't want to fill out a form and put their email in and then have to come into your booth after that. They just want to be able to walk right in, very simple, just kind of like tap something or scan something. And they were like, well, it doesn't suck. It's working and we're getting emails and people are doing it. And so at that point, it's like, well, what do you say back to them? And so for us, what we realize is we need to not degrade what they're doing, but just say, hey, you could do this 1 billion times better with this method instead, and this whole channel that you guys have really untapped at this point. So that was the second part, or that's the second part of what we go into, talking about those specific functionalities they can use. And so similarly, like in a cold email, you could say something like, hey, this is how you could best use Facebook Messenger for your business. And then you kind of list out those functionalities. Kind of in the same way, this presentation, we talk about kind of the top 3 to 5. 5 is max that we usually do, to just kind of dive into each one and say, you can, automate your customer support if that's something they're looking for, right? You can get these open and click rates for higher engagement. You can get higher retention rates, all of that stuff, whatever they're going to care about most that we think based on what we've looked at on their socials and on their email lists and everything that they do online. And then after we do that, then we jump into the demo, because once we've actually talked about, hey, this is how you can use Facebook Messenger in conversational marketing. Okay, this is actually a demonstration that we've put together for you. And yours could look like this. Obviously, we could tinker it and add whatever you guys want, but this is an idea to kind of help you visualize it, because the more gaps that you can fill for them, the better the presentation is going to go. If you don't show them a demo, or if you don't talk about how they can use it, then they're just going to kind of assume and start to put together their own picture of what bots look like. And you don't necessarily want them to do that because they don't know what it looks like at all. And so their picture may not be what you want them to envision. And then therefore you're not going to get the close at the end of the presentation. So being able to fill those gaps for them. So we go into the demo, and then after we do that, then we actually show them a couple companies in their space that either, depending on the industry, if there are other bots in their industry that have already been made, then we show them, hey, these competitors already have it. And so you're actually behind right now because you don't have one yet. Or if their industry doesn't have like any messenger bots or any good ones, then we do show them that the other competitors' Facebook pages don't have the get started button on their chat. And so that means that they're actually behind, but you can be ahead of them today if you wanted to, if you could add that button to your messenger and now be there for your customers 24/7. So adding that urgency step is pretty crucial right after we show them the demo. And then from there, pretty much that lasts a pretty long time. Like it can go for 30 minutes to an hour, honestly. So at that point, then we just answer any questions that they have and also talk about, kind of next steps, really outlining and making everything as clear as possible for them. So overall, that's what it looks like usually.
Incredible, guys. I've got my little notebook right here. I thought I was going to be teaching you guys. I'm over here asking questions for myself. This is great stuff.
That's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that.
This is great. So if you guys have questions, you already said the selling process made simple. And I really think that's big. One thing that maybe we can talk about here, and guys, if you have questions, we've got maybe, we've got bots to build, guys. We have clients to work on, okay? We can't just sit here and do Facebook Lives all day, all right? I wish. But if you guys have questions, throw them down there soon. However, one thing that came up was, and now I haven't heard this, so I hate spreading FUD. I just hate spreading it. However, one of the questions said that the embargo may last a little longer than it was anticipated. I have not heard that. However, that's something they've heard. So 2 questions here. First off, three questions here. What was when you heard about the whole embargo and the whole thing that was happening, what were your kind of thoughts? And then what was your reaction for your community? How did you tell let's start there. I think let's start there. What was your reaction when you heard about this whole thing? And then how did you kind of respond with your students and helping them move forward?
Yeah, so in terms of, so as soon as I heard about it, I honestly wasn't that surprised because I expected them to do something where essentially, right now they're going through this entire platform sweep. And so if they didn't do that with Messenger included, people would have just given them crap for that as well. And so I think that crap would have been a lot worse than people complaining that they can't build new bots temporarily. And so because of that, I kind of expected that to happen. And so when it came out, actually before I could even post in the community, 3 people posted it in my community. So I didn't post it again, but I did comment on it pretty much and tell people hey, don't worry too much about this, but do be proactive. Right, because a lot of people have messaged me, side note, people have messaged me and said, I'm just going to throw the towel in and quit my agency and go back to my corporate job and stuff.
Good, send me your clients.
Yeah, it's so funny. And so it's no, just wait, hold on. You need to be proactive and prepared for this. Things like this are going to happen when you base your entire business around someone else's platform. And so you can't let yourself be tied down by or be controlled by what that platform could potentially do. Facebook could close down next week, which is highly unlikely. But nonetheless, if that did happen, what would happen to your entire business? And so because of that, I urge people, hey, be proactive. If you can set up your own servers, if you want to continue to be able to do messenger bots in case anything ever happened to Chatfuel or anything like that. And then for your business, if you want to position yourself as a more general marketing agency that's going to be more likely a lot more beneficial for you than calling yourself messenger chatbots, right? And because then, later down the line, if you want to expand your services, or even when you're reaching out to people, if people don't know what that is, they're going to see bots. They might get thrown off by that, or that's not going to sound appealing to them. And then now you've lost them as a prospect. And so because of that, I just told people, hey, be as proactive as you can, work on other parts of your business right now. You can actually still go and pitch clients, except right now, obviously you can't hook up their Facebook pages, but you can still build demos for them on Chatfuel. Actually, ManyChat unfortunately can't do this unless you already had a Facebook page linked up to it. But Chatfuel, you can create bots without having to link it to a Facebook page, which I think is a really great thing. That has been phenomenal for us for demos. And so being able to do that for your client, just build it in there and start working on it, build it out. And then once Facebook lifts this ban, I guess we could call it, then you can easily just hook up their Facebook page to that bot that you've already created. So I'd say that's one way around this, to be able to be as effective and productive as possible. Still, don't put your entire business on pause, because this has happened. And in terms of timeline, it's been, I think maybe this is the second or third week since they announced.
I think we're only a week. We're only 2 weeks. I think it happened on a Thursday.
Time passes by so fast. Yes.
I think it's been 2 weeks. And it's like,
okay.
So chill the fuck out, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So don't worry too much about this. And honestly, at the end of the day, Facebook has really pushed for this. If you guys, I'm sure a lot of you who were in the bot communities back in January, when the head of Messenger put out his whole announcement about how Messenger was going to be really big this year, that's still going to happen. And they still really want that to happen. But they do have to do this for the sake of their own reputation and also safety.
For the sake of us moving forward, right? Because
exactly.
If they don't do this, then everybody gets off the platform. Now there's no one to run ads to. Now, so let me ask you this, Natasha. Have you thought about okay, I've been fortunate enough to diversify where if we need to run Facebook ads, we can run Facebook ads. If we need to build bots, we can build bots. I guess if we needed to do funnels or I've got that, but what if, I don't know, let's just play this devil's advocate game, because they asked about where would you build bots next? Let's say Facebook Messenger, for whatever reason, the Senate, I think Zuckerberg is testifying before Congress next week. So I imagine that things will either clear up after then, or I don't think they'll get that bad, but let's play devil's advocate and let's play worst case scenario. If you couldn't build bots on Facebook Messenger, where would you take your bots to? Or was there another platform that you would start developing for?
Yeah, so I think the next ones, so some of these haven't opened up yet, WhatsApp, is in beta. So that would be ideally the next chatbot location I would go to, but Telegram also is a pretty big one, especially for internal operations for companies. And so that's probably what I would move to first, would be try to focus more on helping companies automate their operations through a Telegram bot internally. And then once WhatsApp opened up, then I would go over there, or to Line even, because those two are just ginormous.
What was the last one?
Line.
I don't know that. What is that?
Yeah. So it's mostly used in Asia. It's pretty much the number one way people communicate in Asia. It looks exactly like WhatsApp, except Line is kind of like its own Facebook, because they do own a lot of companies underneath them. So they're an umbrella company. So yeah, I would highly suggest looking into them too, because they and WhatsApp are kind of tied in terms of popularity in a lot of places in the world. So those are the two I would look at in Telegram. Now, in terms of voice bots, which is something that we are definitely starting to work on and bring in for our clients, I would look at Alexa, so doing Alexa skills, and then also Google Assistant. But the thing with voice bots is that it's a totally different game in terms of use cases and functionalities than chatbots. And so if a company was looking for a chatbot, then it wouldn't make sense to build them a voice bot unless they can really take advantage of it.
It's more I'd imagine it's, if I'm guessing here, it's more UX kind of customer oriented as opposed to a chatbot. At least for me, in its highest values is a great lead generation or a client acquisition kind of tool, right? Is that kind of how you see them? Whereas voice, they kind of already have to be a user, or you're not going to really capture too many people through.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, there's a couple other things as well, but for the main, or majorly, that is the biggest difference between them, is that chatbots, you can just do a lot more with new people, and then voice bots, you're kind of stuck with the people you already have and you can work with them. But yeah, it's more of, and again, the use cases are super different because, for example, like for a chatbot, you're comfortable with swiping through a good amount of content through galleries or lists or whatever it is. But for voice bots, you don't want to hear Alexa list off like 40 different e-commerce store products that you could potentially buy and then tell you the colors and the sizes of those. And so Alexa's not the best experience for shopping and for lead generation and qualification and all of that. So Alexa's more for like, hey, when the user already knows and is familiar with the company and they can know exactly what command they want the bot to complete for them, as opposed to chatbots just give you way more options. And I think it's a lot more business driven as opposed to user driven. The user is kind of filling in the gaps and like going along with what the bot is doing, but the voice bot is much more controlled by the user in terms of what actually gets accomplished in that conversation.
So great. Guys, I could ask questions here from Natasha forever, but you've got a few minutes left to throw down your questions here, and then I'm gonna quick engagement plug. Get your thumbs ready, hit the likes and the hearts if you guys enjoy this.
Yes, hearts.
Natasha, one thing that's in here that I think would be great, because you actually have a program that now kind of gives people I was going to call it the 180, but it's probably the 360 in terms of how do we get started with all of this stuff. And
right.
Agency. And one of the questions that came up was, how do you reach out to clients? Can you talk a little bit about what you recommend for beginners who are prospecting? And then also, can you share maybe even a little bit about the program that you have for people who want to start like getting chatbot clients or building chatbot, for other people as well?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of, okay, so the first question.
What's your favorite prospecting? What do you like? How do you like when you're recommending to new people? In my accelerator group, it was funny. It's not funny. It's just great when I see people. They're like, oh, I'm connecting on LinkedIn. I call it digital door knocking, which is just sending Facebook messages to business pages that don't have bots that like literally. I've had people close clients from just cold Facebook messaging to the business page. But there's all these kinds of ways that don't require necessarily Facebook ads. However, what do you recommend as a prospecting method, or what's kind of your favorite to recommend to your students?
Yeah, so in terms of starting out, we do recommend that people build up their bot portfolio before they go and like prospect, just so that they have something to show if anyone wants to ever see a bot that they've built, if they see the demo and they're like, okay, well, what else have you done, and all of that. So that's like the first step that we recommend people do, whether they build just bots for themselves and kind of examples for certain industries, almost like templates, or if they actually go out and build bots for free for a couple businesses and run case studies on those. So that's the first step that we tell people to complete before they go out and really hard prospect. And then once they start prospecting, I think our students have had the most success, honestly, with, like you said, kind of digital door knocking, where they do hit up people who don't have bots, but also LinkedIn. Because I think LinkedIn cold messaging, where you have a sequence set up, and it's not just you sending one message like, hi, I build bots, and then that's it. Like really structuring it to make it as effective as possible, and then sending multiple follow-ups. I think that's been the most effective. And I would say that everyone try and go do that, just because for Facebook, there are a lot of SMBs and solopreneurs and people like that you can take on as clients on Facebook that are very active there.
You don't want them.
But
they're broke.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing too, but also like for medium and large businesses, that is true though. But for medium and large businesses, those people aren't on Facebook to do business. They're there to like post pictures of their food and their cats and their babies and stuff. And they don't necessarily, or they're not like willing to do business on Facebook Messenger with other users. And so because of that, I think that LinkedIn is really the best place to go if you want to do B2B sales, which is exactly what agency sales are. So going to LinkedIn, the platform that was made for that, just makes so much sense. And being able to hit people up through InMail, there's a free trial that you can do there with that if you want to use that, or just hit up people and add them. Super easy to do either one of those, and just have like 3 templates that you can send people that are kind of like, you send one, when you initially reach out to them, 2 weekdays later, you send them another one. And then 2 weekdays later, you say, hey, this is my last time reaching out to you. Or like, hey, I just sent you a message, check this out. Obviously there's kind of like that whole structure of a CTA and everything in there, but nonetheless, it's kind of like the basic outline of it, right? Having those 3 main messages and then one last one, like a week later or 2 weeks later, kind of as a follow-up. Because a lot of people just don't respond because they either don't see it or they read it and then forgot to respond because they have like a billion other things going on.
Yeah, people like, it's also funny when people are like, I did 20 connections on LinkedIn, no one's added me yet. And then like, it's been 6 hours. Like when's the last time before you started prospecting on LinkedIn? When was the last time that like you had checked LinkedIn like consistently?
Exactly.
Chill.
Yeah, exactly. Like so many people only go on there like once every 2 weeks or something.
Right.
So obviously you can see another thing to look at too, just kind of like a little hack, is before you reach out to people, obviously LinkedIn prospecting does take a little bit of time. So being able to hire a VA or someone to do this for you for super cheap is kind of like the best option to do this on a bigger scale. But in terms of trying to optimally reach out to good prospects, you obviously want to look at the companies that they're doing and kind of make sure that they fit your requirements of like actually being active online and being engaging. But also the person, you want to see how active they are, which is super easy to see on their profile. You can literally see the last thing they liked or commented or posted. And so if you can just go check that before you message them, then you can know how active they are. You can kind of see, are they on here every day, or is it like their last comment or like was like 2 months ago? Well, then it's probably not going to make sense for you to send them a message. So looking at things like that, just to make sure that it's actually going to be worth your time to message them, is a pretty important piece of that. So LinkedIn, I would say best, but then moving down the line, once you have some consistent income coming in, we really tell our students partnerships are the way to go, just because that really allows you to automate a lot of the sales process. And then either if you want to just focus on building bots, and that's great, or if you want to focus on going and getting enterprise clients and like bigger people that are going to take a longer time to close, then you can do that now because you have consistent income coming in. You already have clients regularly. And so if for whatever reason prospecting the big guys doesn't work out, you still have your entire agency going without you losing anything or risking anything.
Yeah, we call it go get a bunch of low-hanging fruit and fill up your basket, and that allows you to go after some of those prime apples at the top, for sure.
Exactly.
Guys, if you guys have any questions for Natasha, throw them down there. Natasha, you have a community that's got almost 1,500 people in it, and you have a program with over 100 people in it that are actively building their agency. Can you talk a little bit about School of Bots and where people can find out more about that?
Yep. So if you guys want to check out School of Bots, I'd say you can either head to our website if you want to check that out. It's schoolofbots.co, and you can see all of the stuff that we do there. I won't ramble on forever about everything that we're doing, but essentially we are an educational brand and want to be a one-stop shop for everything bots. So whether you're just getting started and you just heard about bots on this live stream, or if you have already been building your agency for a couple months or even like a year now, and you're just looking for more resources to scale up and continue to grow, then we also have stuff for you as well. So you can head to our website. Like Hector said, we do have our community, which is pretty exciting. It's actually like the first community I've ever built. And so it was pretty cool to see a lot of people joining and getting value from there. We do interviews in there as well. So you guys can join that at bit.ly/bot school. Or if you just look up School of Bots on your Facebook search bar, it'll come up and you can join the group there. And then in terms of what we do, there's a lot of stuff we do, so I won't go over everything, but our main thing is our training program. So we do have resources on our site as well that kind of describe what's all inside of that, if that's what you're looking for. And our main kind of free resource is our free workshop that goes over how you can do what Hector and I do with our agencies, pretty much yourself, getting started, today if you wanted to. So that free workshop is on our site as well. It's the big yellow button in the middle of the screen. So you guys can click on that and be able to go to the workshop and just get as much value of that as possible. But our Facebook group's there for you guys to be able to ask any questions and access our Google Drive of resources and all the videos and docs that we have in there as well. So overall, that is the best way you guys can take advantage of our community and everything we put out. We try to put out as much content as possible and are still building up everything. But those are the main places that you guys can find us and learn more.
I put it in the links in the description. So there's a a link to is it a PDF? Is that correct?
Which one?
Oh no, it's a training, the bit.ly/make money with
Oh
bots.
yeah, that's the free workshop.
Free workshop, and then also the group is tagged in the description up there as well, guys. So go
Sweet.
get
Thanks
involved
so
and
much.
learn more. And I was talking with her about this, and I just think that there's so much room for collaboration and community within the bot world. So I'm excited about all of this moving forward. And I think, are you still in Southern California?
I am. So I was traveling for the last like 8 or 9 months, pretty much since last August. So it was a really freaking long time. And then now I'm actually back in Irvine at the moment. So
Is that your
probably
home base, kind of? Is that where you're?
yeah, this is where I grew up and this is where my parents' house is and a lot of my friends and stuff. So I think
Sweet.
I'm sure like next year I'll end up getting an apartment here, like in Newport Beach or something. But for the moment, I am still kind of on the go, traveling around
Yeah.
and yeah.
My wife is actually from Newport, and
Oh,
her
nice.
my in-laws live in Santa Ana, so we're always down there quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, guys, expect a SoCal bot meetup very, very soon.
Yes, I was just gonna say, I would like to do a dinner while I'm in California. I'll be here until like May. So I think Ari and you actually talked about this or something because Ari like mentioned to me that he had talked to you and like I think you mentioned something to him. So I would like to do a
We'll
dinner
do it.
slash meetup.
What do you think? Let me ask you this. I was thinking brunch. What do you think about
I
brunch?
like that actually. I think that's a great idea.
What do you think about like bottomless mimosas and bots? Like
I think that's cool.
that's
And
where
there's
my brain was going.
alliteration. That's good.
So let's chat off air about that, and we'll see if we can put that
Yeah,
together.
yeah, that would
And
be
the rest of you guys, go join. Click the go get that free training from her. Go join her group and spam her with all the questions that you guys.
awesome.
But we'll see
Yeah,
you guys
come
later. We
join
have Deborah.
us.
We have one last interview for the summit. We have Deborah K. She's gonna be talking about
Woo! I love Deborah.
creating an engaging chat bot, and she's got an emoji bot that we'll probably be demoing and checking out. So come back a little
Yes,
later
that
for
is
that
super
too.
cool. I'm excited for that. I will definitely watch that.